Hi, welcome everybody to Studio Parsons, and this is another video tutorial for you YouTubers out there. And today's video, of course, is self-explanatory right here. It's how to create your YouTube thumbnail in Photoshop. Now, first of all, what are some of the things you need to know about the thumbnail that needs to be used in YouTube? Is the dimensions, the size of the image that YouTube requires in order for you to properly upload your thumbnail. Now, you could have a larger size or a different size, but YouTube might possibly change the size of your image and cut off some of your dimensions or your graphics in the process. So we want to make sure that everything's fine. So we're going to go into image size, make sure it's set to pixels, and you want to have it set to 1280 by 720. I use 72 resolution because it's kind of like a default, and it's only going to be used for a thumbnail. So we don't really need to worry about a high quality, a high definition, large size image for this. So I'm good with this. We're just going to cancel out. Now, the other important thing about your thumbnail, depending on the video that you're going to be creating this for, is also the text that you're using. As you can see here, the text I've used is associated with this tutorial, which is basically to teach you how to create a thumbnail in Photoshop. Now, there are many Photoshop tutorials out there, I am sure you are aware, but these are just some quick tips and tricks that of course I use that are very similar to those out there, and I figured I would just create a video here for you guys to update your skills in creating thumbnails. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide my text content, and we're going to dive into this lovely picture that we have here. Now, this is my default image that I use on my thumbnails for creating videos for YouTube. But say, for example, this is you, and you want to have a different background. Now, sometimes you'll have a photo of the background like I have here, and you'll just be content with using this. Some people like to mask or cut out their body or their face and superimpose it over a background image or another image layer that represents something associated with their video content. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go in and do that as well in this image or thumbnail and replace it with another background. That could be anything. So what you need to do is make sure that you have a layer that you can play with. I'm just going to duplicate the layer here on my settings, and of course it changed color because it's been removed from the brightness and contrast here in this folder, and I'm just going to hide this. So what we want to do is now we want to kind of start working on selecting the outside of the background. Now, in some video tutorials you may hear about this tool here called the quick select tool, or there's also the magic wand tool or object selection tool, but in most cases you will want to use the quick selection tool. And what this does, it's going to quickly select the colors that you're choosing or you're painting with. So the more the black color that I go here in the dark grays, it's going to select those, and it's going to do a pretty good job at making sure that only the background is being selected and the foreground of me in the picture will be not selected. In some cases this tool is really good for if you have a background or like a blue screen, it would do an exceptional job. And sometimes you might have problems where you select like if I go here and select, it takes a piece of my finger out because the brightness reflecting off my finger blends with the background of the text that's here. And in some cases, like even here, if I go in and select too much, it might end up selecting the whole entire image. So I'm just going to go in here and select as much as I can with this tool, and make sure I get all the edges and everything here, because sometimes some of the edges don't get selected. And I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool to kind of refine everything else that I need. So I'm kind of happy with the selection. Oh, I just missed the spot down here, and I'm going to go in and just select that, and we're going to create a mask that's going to take this all out. Now you notice that there's a little chunk here. I'm going to leave that for refining with the polygonal lasso tool. So we're just going to go in, and we have to make sure that we invert the selection, because we don't want this to be masked out. We want this. So if I just go in right now and click on the mask, create mask layer, you're going to see that I get deleted. So by Control Z undoing, we're going to hit Control Shift and then the I key, which is going to invert the selection. So now I can go in and just click the mask tool here, or the mask layer, and you can see what happens. So now we have some bits and pieces that are just not looking good, just not clean enough. So we're going to go in and touch this up with the lasso tool. So by hitting your Z, I'm going to just go in and remove some of these pieces. You can hit the L key on your keyboard to bring up the lasso tool, and what you're going to do is you're just going to gently go around the edges here, and by holding either, depending on where your color is on your layer, your color selection here, it could either be Control Delete or Alt Delete. Hitting Alt Delete exposes the mask. I'm going to undo that, so I'm going to hit an X, make sure that my color black is on top, and I'm going to hit Alt Delete again, and as you can see, it will now disappear. So by hitting Control D, you can always deselect your selection, and we're going to zoom out. Also coming into here, as you can see, the quick select tool didn't really get all the good parts of it here, so that's what I'm going to do with the polygonal lasso tool. We're going to chip away all this, and we're going to start anywhere outside of the selection that we don't want, and we're just going to make our way ever so gently around the top of my head here, so that we can select this and then mask it out. Now I'm going to keep on going all the ways around my head here, just so that I can get most of it during the selection. Some of the black maybe, and then we're going to just go all the ways around, double click, and then making sure that we're still on our mask, we're going to hold Alt Delete to hide that. Again, Control D to deselect. I'm just going to go back in here and clean some of this up. Now, for all intentional purposes here, this image is not that great, so I'm going to kind of assume that some of this needs to be cut out and doesn't belong there. Again, that kind of comes down with experience and expertise working in Photoshop, knowing what to take out and what not to take out. So I'm just going to go in and delete some of this, and because you see here the edges are really unbalanced and not that great, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to just kind of smooth that out by taking the tops of that off and extending this down, and we'll select that, Alt Delete, Control Delete for deselection, and by holding your Control and pressing the 0, we can zoom out fully. Now it may look like we have most of this done, but we really don't. And another little trick that I like to use is I like to create a background of either some color to kind of give me an idea of where most of my mistakes are. As you can see, tip of my finger is missing. There's some pieces here. So the edges need to be still kind of cleaned up a little bit. And also we have some transparency here that also needs to be removed. So I'm just going to go in simply and remove that, making sure I select on my mask. Hit my L. And then I'm going to go in and I'm just going to kind of do something like this. Clicking away and removing this area. So you can see we have some transparency there. I could go in a little bit more, but for now I'm going to be happy with this. Now we're going to fix the finger. We're going to actually use the brush tool on this because the mask has taken too much of the finger, and we're going to just kind of remove that masking and give it back to the finger. So we're just going to zoom in here a little bit, hit your B for your brush. Now you might have to figure out, okay, is it using a black or the white color for the masking? So if I go like this, you can see, okay, it's removing it. So we're going to hit Control Z. We're going to hit X to switch the color, and I'm going to just bring this up a little bit, the opacity, so that's a little bit more stronger. And as you can see, I'm going to color in here, and I'm going to get some of the finger back. Now I could also go here with the lasso tool and just kind of clean up the edges a little bit here. Oh. There we go. And then that's it. So it all depends on you and the quality of your thumbnail or the image that you're going to use. I'm okay with this, and we're just going to move forward because we're almost done here now. So the next thing you want to do is have a background. So I just chose any background that I got off the internet, and I figured, well, you know what, I'd like to be a librarian. I make videos about library or books, so I just add this in. And the simple way of doing it is you go onto the web, look for your image, right click it, save image as, then choose the folder where your project is. You simply then hit Control O to open, and then import your image. It's that simple. So you just have to make sure that the layer is not on top here, so it's blocking out. You got to make sure that it's behind the image that you're working on. Now this image could use a little bit more adjustments, but we're not going to bother with that today. Next thing you would need to know is, well, I'm going to create some text. So I go into my text tool here, and I'm going to say videos about books. Okay, so we're going to make sure that this is on top of our image like so, and now you're going to think about how you're going to place this. So I can make this all caps if I wish, because you have that option in Photoshop. So I'm just going to scroll down and make it all caps. There you go. One other good thing is that when you're choosing your text is to make sure that it's thick and bold. That's one of the things I like about text. If your text is too thin, it just disappears in the background. So what you want to do is to make sure that you choose a good font that is nice and bold. So we're just going to go into something, say bold here, and just make some minor adjustments to the text, and going to expand it a bit so that people can actually read it when they check out your thumbnail. So as you can see here, the text is kind of stuck together a little bit. We're going to go to auto. We're going to do some minor adjustments on this, just the spacing, so that its spacing is just right. Now if the text still has a little bit of problem coming out and looking good, what I would do is I would either make the background a little bit darker, but we want to make sure the background is visible. So what we want to do is we want to put a background behind the text. This is one of many tricks that you can use to expand the visuals of your text. You can also go into your effects and add a stroke. I chose the wrong one. Sorry about that. Yeah, oh, got the right one. And then just change the color to white. Make sure that is on the outside. And there you go. Now your text is a little bit more visible. But for this tutorial, I am just going to create a background, but I'm going to change the color of my text to white. And then what we would do is go down to the lowest layer possible here so that we can create a new one on top of the background behind the text, and make sure we choose a black color. And then we're going to choose our rectangle tool, and just let me straighten it up a little bit here, and I'm going to create a kind of a rectangle here. So that I don't want the text to go too close to my head because of the black background. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower the size a little bit so that it matches, and move it over a little bit more. Let Photoshop kind of help guide me in the placement. Sometimes you might need to do it yourself. And then I'm going to go back down, Alt, Shift, and bring it down. And then we're going to now Control T to transform it. In the new version, if you try doing it like this, it's going to automatically scale it down uniformly. What we want to do is we don't want it uniformly. We want to just have it transformed the way we want it. So we're going to hold down the Shift, and that's going to allow us to just shrink it horizontally. So I go about here, I click my Enter, and so far it looks good. So we have text here that describes videos about books. We can add other text in here that says, click to subscribe, anything that you would like. So you just want to make sure that when you're building your thumbnail and you're adding your text, that it gets the point out to the viewers. Sometimes it may take some time and experience to figure out how to properly place your text and your images and your graphics. A lot of that comes into research or over time with experience. So with that being said, I can now hide my text that I just created and pop up the one that I have made, as you can see here, where I emphasize on YouTube being red because, of course, red is the color. And I put the Photoshop icon in the corner that tells people that I'm doing a Photoshop tutorial as well. So I hope that was intuitive enough for you to start on working on your own YouTube video thumbnails. And if you like it, please hit the like button. Also share it to your friends, which is also very important and highly recommend. And if you want to see more, you have to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be a part of the Studio Parsons channel and be notified of future videos. This is Bernard Parsons thanking you very much for joining me here at Studio Parsons, and hope to see you come back again.